Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing Jumanji. It was released in 1995, directed by Joe Johnston, stars Robin Williams, Kirsten Dunst, Bonnie Hunt, and David Alan Grier. This movie asks us if you want to leave the world behind. Now, this is a fair warning, we're spoiling a 28-year-old film, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. I have a Jumanji secret. Can you guess?
Have you not seen it before?
I had not seen this before. And I fully am convinced that I thought I saw this as a kid. And our re-review had me going, wait a second, why don't I remember this as well as these guys appear to remember this? And I know this was a very quintessential film for people. So I that is my Jumanji secret. It's terrible. It's so bad.
Oh.
Bobby, can you tell me when you first saw this movie?
In theaters. Pretty sure I watched it in theaters as a very, very, very young boy.
It's a very young Bobby. What was your reaction? What was it like, for you to watch this movie for the first time?
Yeah, I remember liking it. I remember it was exciting. I remember being impressed by the special effects, like the stampede, and maybe not the monkey so much, but all the rest of it was pretty good, I thought.
You're telling me those monkeys weren't convincing back then in 95?
Maybe they were back in 95, but they seem a little bit cartoony nowadays. But I guess they are the hardest thing to do. Like, they had a lot of character and expression, and maybe they were made to be a little bit cartoony on purpose, but fur and all that kind of tricky computer stuff. So, but yeah, I just remember enjoying the movie a lot and having fun with it and thinking, wow, this is going to be awesome, having all these really fun sequels that are directly related to it.
Oh boy.
Over the next couple of years.
The foreshadowing. Matt, when was the first time you saw it?
Well, I was a very young child of 10 when I watched this, and I did watch it in theaters. It's funny though, because I don't remember the experience of watching in theaters as much. I feel like the strongest memories I have of this movie is actually after the fact, because I used to watch a show called Movie Magic growing up, and they featured the work they did on animatronics and CG animation, and they would actually break down how they did the stampede, for example, how they did the lion, how they did the monkeys, and watching it as not an aspiring filmmaker, but somebody who admired the industry or whatever and how they made movies. It was interesting watching it. And then anytime I watched it after that, I was watching it from a slightly more technical point of view. I must
remember the slower hippo from that show. I think they talked about the slow at the end of the stampede. There was one rhino or something, or hippo or whatever, who just
trotting along
behind everybody else.
I do remember from a technical standpoint that this movie impressed me at the time. I don't know if the monkeys stood out to me back then. I mean, we're in the era of N64, right? But we were also years after Jurassic Park. So it's like
that damn Jurassic Park ruining so many other films.
It made everyone else want to do CG, and then no one else could. It's not like this was amateur hour. I mean, there's a lot of that does hold up, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just there are certain moments that stand out. But to be honest, then and now watching it, I feel like the thing that I tend to remember the most tends to be the heart of the story, I think. The story of, a father and a son, of, a person in Carl who had missed opportunities, of, oh my God, I can't remember her name. Oh no.
Sarah Whittle.
Sarah. And the trauma of what she went through and dealing with it, and how, because if you think about it, how do you tell that story to people and not come off sounding crazy?
There's a surprising amount of really good character in this movie.
Well, the two kids, their parents, and the trauma it has on Peter, and even with Kristen Dunst's character, whose name is escaping me at the moment, Judy. like her pathological lying as a result.
Yeah.
Like she's grown up
Yeah.
trying to get attention and stuff. So there's a lot of character in this. And even it's such a weird thing. The moment of the guy who was living in the old shoe factory, the way he tells the story is strangely tragic and beautiful at the same time.
Right.
Like it's just such a good moment. And I feel like as I've gotten older, those are the moments that seem to stick to me over the monkeys, I think.
Dang,
Yeah.
you notice all the really dark stuff.
No, the beginning of this movie could be a beginning of a horror movie easily.
Well,
And like little girls getting barbs in her throat. Like, I mean,
let's talk about Jumanji. This insane thing that clearly just channels to children, it would appear, and seemingly wants to destroy their lives in ways that just don't make any sense. That
And everybody
you're
else's
absolutely right.
too.
It's a horror movie. It totally is. You have the kids who are burying this thing, and my first reaction was, wait, did they actually finish the game? They did complete their quest to finish it, but they said this is so dangerous, let's hide it, just for it to be unearthed by young Alan Parrish after him getting his ass beat by the bullies. But it's just this really interesting dynamic where I don't know if the later movies, I haven't seen the later movies, explain this. Like, we don't really know the source of this board game, do we? It's so mystical. I want to know more.
yeah, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. And you think about it, it goes to an alternate dimension of some sort where, there, like at the end of the day, Jumanji isn't the game, it's the location because everything comes from Jumanji itself. Now, in later movies, it turns out Jumanji is just Hawaii, where you have blender machines and airplanes and modern clothes and toiletries and stuff. Go figure.
Go on.
And ATVs and everything. I guess
and
that
The
was
Rock and Kevin Hart.
That was the deep darkness that Alan Parrish dreaded at night. But anyways, so this was just a portal to all that at the end of the day. So yeah, who made this? Was this, because I mean that was like what the 1800s was the opening sequence.
Yeah.
So I mean, it obviously had to predate that. So yeah, is this some sort of like it came out of like the dark jungles of Africa or something like that? And it was like some sort of like device,
some voodoo magic.
Like it was just some sort of, mechanism to go there, or like, was this, at the end of the day, is Jumanji the game a curse? It kind of comes off that way. But yeah, I'm surprised that was never touched on in the sequels, is the origin of Jumanji.
Yeah, because I feel like that could make for some interesting, stuff as well. Or maybe even if we got to what did those original kids experience, or they could make tons of time period things, because it seems like this board game is being handed down from, I'll say, past multiple generations, because it's something they want to hide and keep from people, because like, it's so dangerous. Why are we playing this game? But you get pulled in because of that drum sound, right? You feel it in your heart.
It's funny. The one thing that I just thought of that makes the sequels a little bit more redeemed is in the first movie, it's in the board game becomes a video game. It morphs into a video game so that they actually want to play it. They find it down in like the room while they're cleaning or whatever. And so it makes them want to play it. I guess if you really think about it, maybe that's what happened in the 1800s. Maybe it was something else. It morphed into a board game that existed in that time period that would make people want to play it. Maybe prior to that, it was whatever kids would play. Like, is this like a Hans Christian Andersen or like, a Hansel and Gretel type thing that it's like, or like Cabin in the Woods, right? Like you can't be punished unless you transgress. You can only be punished in this game if you play the game in the first place.
I love where we're going with this. This is fantastic. Except that I'm imagining it's like some jacks and balls. Just someone's bouncing a ball. That's the old Jumanji. Or the little cup. You got to throw the ball in the cup. Oh, there's Jumanji.
What was that little thing on? Like it's a ball on a string and you're trying to catch it. Like
exactly. That's the original Jumanji. I mean, we look at it, and for me, I think what is surprising at first is seeing this character of Alan Parrish, this young boy who, I will tell you, I did not enjoy the acting of the kids. It got better once Kirsten clearly you could tell she was probably going to turn into something a bit more. But most of the kids, especially that opening scene, it hurt. I wrote my note was, I'm like, kid actors are terrible. I felt that way about this. And I was like, maybe if I was a kid, I wouldn't see through it. And that's exactly what would happen. And I'd probably take more joy from it. But Alan Parrish as a whole, because he's this, he's bullied. He clearly doesn't feel good about himself. I was so disturbed by him getting Carl fired. Like, I did not like that at all. And I especially didn't like that he just looks on as Carl takes the fall. And even though you don't see the actual firing happening, then he just walks down the stairs and move on. And I get we have this character that is going to go through the experience of going into Jumanji and being gone for a long time, then coming out really still childlike in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm jumping ahead, but when he apologizes to Carl as an adult in the police car, I did not feel it. I did not. I was still so angry for Carl. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? And having a time warp redemption because they get to do it all over his kids. No, I'm sorry. You're a terrible human being.
Tell us how you really feel, man.
Rant over. I was frustrated by little Alan Parrish.
Clearly, Alan Parrish clearly had an issue with his father, and he didn't want to disappoint his father. And it seemed like the last thing it looked to me like he felt bad about not fessing up to his dad, but he just really didn't want to be involved in that situation.
I guess I see it more like Austin. Like the way his facial expressions just made it look like he was just like, oh, okay. And just walked away. Like, I like where you're going with the Bobby. I think that him being scared of his dad and the wrath of his dad would have been a great thing to play off of, especially because of their relationship. But the way that it was presented, the way the kid acted, again, not to be mean against kid actors, it's not fair. But the way he just like, oh, okay. And then he just walks away rather than, having any sense of terror or even a moment where it looks like he was going to say something, but then you could see he got scared. Like he was afraid of what was going to happen as a result. That would have been great. But I'm with Austin. It looks like he's just like, oh, and then turns away.
Too bad for you, guy. You shouldn't have put those shoes in my hands. Would you have worn those shoes? Did you like the Parrishes? The Parrish ones, I'll call them.
They didn't look very comfortable.
But you don't need that many straps.
There's the cynical part of me that's technically speaking, even if things had gone well for Carl, the moment he showed him that shoe, I get the feeling that I don't know what kind of person what was his name? Sam? What's his dad's name? Sam Parrish? He might have just been like, thanks for the shoe, buddy. Now get back on the line.
Yes.
I'm going to make millions off this.
Oh, no.
Well, even the way that Alan reacted to the shoe, he didn't even say he liked it. He just kind of moved on and looked out the window so he wouldn't get bullied, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could tell I'm feeling it for Carl. I totally felt it for Carl. I'm like, what's going on here? Okay, so let's get to the game. Game starts. He's hanging out with Sarah because, that's the girl he's not supposed to hang out with. That's why he gets beat up by the bully friends. Don't you dare talk to my girl. After digging it out of a construction site, which, okay, hold on. Bobby, are you letting your kid go around a construction site without a hard hat? What is happening? Where are all the adults here?
I don't think the construction workers would let a kid go around a construction site.
Hey, little guy, are you digging out a hole on our construction site? You probably took him 2 hours to do that. Okay, I'm done.
I don't hang out on very many construction sites, but I can't imagine they're just open to the public where you can just walk around.
So, he's hanging out with Sarah. He's supposed to get his bike back. That's fine. They're going to play the game. And I don't know. One of the things that I love, and this is why I was like, man, I want a real Jumanji board game. I just love the idea of you rolling dice and then the board game automatically moving the physical pieces without you having to touch it.
Yeah,
it's a little thing, but I love that dynamic of them representing how the Jumanji pieces work.
And you can't move them. They're just stuck there.
Mm-hmm. Some really heavy duty magnets that are going on. But we get introduced to the dynamic of what's going to happen here. You get the dice rolled and Sarah reads the first item. And I think this is where we get the bats that attack.
Yeah.
Correct. And they stick around for a long time too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it's where I think you get, that first, not that the drumming wasn't an element of fantasy here, but we get our first real indication of like, okay, some things are going to get wild. And then, he rolls the dice and you get a very terrible, very ugly looking, like whirlwind of him vanishing into the board game and her looking at the vanishing, but she's really not because she doesn't know what to look at, but it's okay.
Right.
The intent is there and I support it. And I think this is why we make the comments about the monkeys and the other CGI parts, because we're getting it's like, I'm going to say mixed use, right? There's a lot of puppetry. There's elements of trying to do practical mixed with the CG that we see throughout, all of these different things they encounter. Fast forward to, he's been gone for 26 years. Parents dead. House is up for sale. And the new kids, why are you laughing at? Yeah, the house, someone's gotta buy the house.
It's just the parents dead. Like, just so matter of fact, just kill them off. Died of heartbreak and poverty, apparently.
I mean, it's like, it's 2 times over. So Alan's parents are dead and he's trapped in a game, and Judy and her brother, whose name I'm losing right now, Peter, their parents are dead. They're with their aunt, right? Nora? Is it their aunt?
Mm-hmm.
And so she's getting the house, bringing the kids in, and they hear and find the game. Okay, fantastic. They go through the process and end up rolling the thing to bring Alan back, and we get to see Robin Williams. And like, who doesn't love Robin Williams? He really makes everything he does really just work. And that kind of energy he brings is the I'm home, I'm back. And the surprise is we start then moving through the journey of, wait, they need to continue playing this game. I think that's the exciting part, right? Because it's like, oh, we're going to see more shenanigans happen.
Right.
Well,
and then we get,
it's the redundant, like it's the reluctance to play the game was really interesting. Like they know they have to, but almost none of them want to. The kids seem to be a little bit more willing, but obviously, Alan, I mean, there's no guarantee that somebody else won't get sucked into the game again. Sarah, she's, had her life ruined by it. So like, for a good 20 minutes of this movie, it's just fighting to get them to roll the dice, it seems. And then you had to trick people to get it, to happen. So,
right.
And then shenanigans ensue as a result.
Right. Although they did kind of turn it into jokes a little bit, like when they're trying to force Sarah to play the game, and then Sarah finds out that they had to force Alan to play too. She's like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, the kids were definitely far more willing, right? And they found the interest in it. When you, what was your reaction when you first saw the lion?
As a kid, I thought it looked really real.
Yeah.
As an adult, I'm impressed by the effort put in, because I know for a fact that would have just been a CG lion today.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been more realistic as a CG lion. But you just look at the sheer scale of it. It was a full-size lion that, from the back is probably where they had the rigging and the controls. Right. So that's just why you never saw it really from the back end. I don't think it's bad. I think that it would have been interesting if it would have been a little bit more subtly done when they introduced the lion. It just kind of was like bam there, but
I want to see the like special edition where they like deep fake a lion's face onto it.
That's the remake Bobby wants, a deep fake Jumanji of the original Jumanji. With deep fake animals. That's a good one. I don't think I was ready for that.
They do that now. Some of the Corridor Digital guys or whatever, I could see them going back and redoing those monkeys.
And that's really the key. I think even I mentioned this. Corridor Digital's probably messed me up in terms of understanding what I should be looking for when it comes to CG. And so much of probably our issues with it is just because the lighting on those monkeys doesn't really match the lighting of the scene. So they tend to stand out and not feel like they're in the place that they actually are. But, we had mosquitoes, we have the monkeys. Things obviously get crazier with the other items that come out of it. As we're moving through the store, we kind of get reintroduced. We see, David Alan Grier is now a police officer, and he's kind of puzzled by everything that's going on. We get the monkeys driving the cars around, which was great. The whole, like, the way things interacted with the physical world.
Yeah.
was interesting because there was so many elements where it's sometimes like, wait, you don't see this? But then other times when it's like, wait, no, they're actually shooting a shotgun in the car and it just blew a hole out the roof. Wait,
Right.
what just happened here? And they're driving it around. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed all that bit of shenanigans that was going on.
I really liked it a lot too. And I thought that David Alan Grier was really funny. Like, I thought that he had some really good lines, like when his car was getting eaten by a vine. And I mean, and a lot of the other people were really funny too. Like, like just all the reactions and all the comments that they had to just seeing things that were like utterly ridiculous. That it was just funny how, like, we talk about how in zombie movies, how like no one really like acknowledges what's crazy about what's actually happening. And I like that they did in this movie.
Would you want to get bit by a big old mosquito?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to be bit by normal sized mosquitoes. And you're over here trying to get me into a coma from a big size one.
I know. And this thing could like poke its nose through the like glass. It's like,
So, we get introduced to Van Pelt. How do you feel about Van Pelt?
I love the reflection of it, using the same actor, the father actor, to be, the antagonist from Jumanji. Like, it's funny because Alan, for as terrified as he is of the things that are in Jumanji, he was more scared of Van Pelt than he was of the lion. And that just goes to show, the trauma that he has. I mean, he literally has his father be the oppressor when he's in the normal world, and then in Jumanji, a variant from the multiverse is causing him nightmares in Jumanji as well. And it's great because I'm blanking on the actor's name right now, who played the father.
Hyde.
Like, great actor, amazing actor. It would have been a waste for him to just been the father. So to reuse him as Van Pelt was, just genius. And I don't know if I made the connection when I was a kid that it was the same actor at first.
I could say how you wouldn't, because it's not. I don't think it's immediately obvious. And then I think some of my favorite stuff he did was just he would make certain noises at certain times that just were so perfect. For what was happening in the scenes.
The facial expressions he would make too. Perfect.
Never mind the murdering he was trying to do. That part's a little concerning.
It was, but at the same time, I'm like, I remember as we were watching this, I was like, man, this guy's got the aim of a stormtrooper.
Yes, he does.
Right.
But then he makes the comment. He was like, please, like, what did he say? Like, please, woman, if I wanted to kill you, I could have done it a long time ago. Right. Showing that every single one of his shots was missing on purpose. He was just trying to drive them into a situation that was beneficial for him.
Right.
Because he wanted the game.
Yes. Well, he wanted Alan more than anything else. He wanted, like, Alan was his end goal because he had the game. He wanted Alan. Alan, like, to me, I think that, like, and they might have explained it in the movie, maybe I might have missed it, but like, he's a hunter through and through. He's probably killed all the things that came out of Jumanji except for Alan. Alan's the only prey he hasn't been able to get, so he is the ultimate prey for him. I mean, like, what was that book or whatever the movies, man's the ultimate, prey or whatever. So like, that's literally what Alan represented to him.
And here is all that darkness once again. The trauma from being a kid, traumatized by his dad who just wants to kill him. Fantastic. Poor Alan.
It does bring into question when he started hunting him. Like,
oh yeah.
But I will say this, and I felt this way when I watched it originally, and this is how I feel to this day. The Alan Parrish that went into that game would not have made it 2 days in Jumanji.
Right.
Let alone 26 years?
No. He either toughened up real quick, or maybe he stole another pair of those air Parrishes. That's how he got away from everything.
I'm assuming he just hid somewhere for a good long time, and
for 26 years. I mean, it is interesting because we have no idea how time passes in Jumanji.
This is true.
Well, he was pretty aware of it being 26 years.
But he was surprised it was because they told him in the movie it was 1995, right?
Yeah, I think that's when he brought it up.
It seems like he didn't really think that time was going to pass, that it would pass in the jungle, but not pass in, quote, the real life, I guess, because he expected to see his parents. And
I mean, to be fair, it's no different than if you go back to your old high school 10 years later, you expect to see the same thing and you're shocked when it's different.
Right.
So even if he was aware of it, it's a 180 from what he's expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into the all the shenanigans nonsense, but we do eventually get to a place of resolution where he does roll the perfect roll. It's falling down things and it happens to land on it, but we got the quintessential moment where Robin Williams as Alan gets to scream Jumanji, and I will tell you there was like a sense of relief because you're like, yes, finally. This is coming to a conclusion. What I didn't expect was for it to do the time traveling back and make them kids again. I honestly didn't expect that.
I would agree. I think that was the same way I felt the first time I watched it, and that they retained their memories of the entire thing,
Right.
which is the reason why I wrote down in my notes, Jumanji equals immortality ?
Right.
Like, could you intentionally survive the first thing, live an entire life, gain a bunch of knowledge, finish the game, and go back in time like 50 years?
I feel like the game would figure out a way to...
You're cheating the system.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love this idea. Wait a second. Hold on. So there's the flip side, Matt. If little Alan could make it longer than 2 days, this sounds like a perfect plan.
Well, but that's only assuming, and this is the one thing that, like, as a board game, the vagueness of it, you don't know what you're going to land on. Like, I don't like, is there literally like every 15 spaces, is there you're going to get sucked into Jumanji tile? Or was that literally the only one? So like, that's the only bad roll you could really get. And everything past that was just lions and mosquitoes and vines and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the entire movie I was sitting there thinking of all the ways you could break the game, right? And I said it while we're watching it. I was like, could you just consecutively just keep rolling? And like, yeah, a bunch of stuff will be popping out, but there's only like 12 spaces to get to the center of Jumanji. I mean, I know the game knows when you're cheating, but then I was also like, are the dice locked to the game in a way that, like, if, when they get rid of the game at the end, if you really want to prevent this from happening again, could you just take the dice and throw them into like, a cement block and then take the game and throw it somewhere else? And even if somebody found the game without those dice, you couldn't actually start the game? Or could I just go grab some D&D dice, throw them down, and the game would start again?
And now you get to roll 20s.
And the game would like absorb those dice.
Yes, and they convert.
Oh, that's a great idea. I mean, this does give us an idea of what could happen, or since I think you've seen them, what maybe did happen with the sequels, in terms of we're presented with a finish to this film of it's being found again. It washed up ashore in France, and these kids are walking towards it, and it's time for this to run again. Do you think they had the intent to run it back in like another country?
You mean like a planned sequel or something like that in France? I don't know, because that's definitely not how it turned out in the actual sequel. And I'm using sequel very, like, I'm air quoting the heck out of that term right there for that sequel. But
well, it seems they really wanted to leave it open for something.
Potentially, yeah. Some sort of follow up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'd be a French version of Jumanji, but I don't. I mean, maybe we're so overblown by sequels that we're thinking that way. But they were just like, they just wanted to have like that stinger at the end to be like, it's not over.
Not wrong,
right?
We could probably all agree we don't have enough one and dones, and everything has sequels now.
Oh no, I there's so many that I wish were one and dones, and this is one of them for sure. That, to me, this is Jumanji, and whatever happened after that's fake Jumanji, Sam's Cola Jumanji.
Well, there was Zathura too, which is in the world of Jumanji, they called it.
I did not see this.
Same here. I know it was directed by Jon Favreau, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you may need to watch it. I mean, maybe it might be something worth seeing if it's within this world. But at the same time, it's like the origin of Jumanji. Do I really want to see the origin? It's like the mask from The Mask. Do I really need to see where it came from to enjoy this movie? Or will it take away from this movie somehow to find out that this game was actually because some version of Jack and Rose were, on a boat somewhere, and they had a blood oath curse, and that generated a game. And
I'm here for these movie crossovers. I'm not going to lie. Because there's a part of me that felt like this could also be in the Mummyverse somehow.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm glad you said it makes sense. I don't know that it does, but I'm happy you agreed to it. I want to see like Encino Man
Brendan Fraser.
Bubby meets Jumanji. No, I mean, it seems like it's worth watching to me. You know, it since it has been a long time, and there's that element of this being geared towards. It feels like geared toward kids, but all these heavy topics that you mentioned, Matt, like there's a lot of really heavy content that you pick up more as an adult. You know, I'm asking you, Bobby, is this something you would share with your family? You know, when do you feel like this is the movie that you show to your kids?
I mean, I liked it, and I think there was enough clean humor and enough family fun stuff to enjoy it. I think this is a good movie for a good family night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing to worry about in here. I mean, there's maybe like for real young, real sensitive kids, there's maybe some like adventurous peril type stuff, but I mean, otherwise, there's nothing to worry about in here. So this is a good, fun family movie.
And I feel there's only like one joke that no one's going to get anymore because the time has passed, but it was very cringeworthy now, which is the postal worker joke.
Oh, right.
Oh, boy. It was a very different time then. We'll do our round robin now. And Matt, are you telling people to watch Jumanji?
Absolutely. I think that if you've watched it before in the past, it's worth watching again. If you've never watched it or you want to watch it with your kids, I feel like, yeah, there's some darker stuff in there, but I think I was more traumatized by Lion King growing up. So I think that
Sure.
I think this one, if they watch it as, you know, little youngins, I think that they'll appreciate it as they grow up the way that I think we did. So
yeah, let's not talk about the tears of Lion King. Bobby, are you telling people to watch Jumanji?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I think that's what these movies should be. It's just a lot of fun, and I laughed a lot. I was surprised at some of the jokes and how clever they were, and I just thought that it was a really fun movie, and I think that people would enjoy it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you both. It's one of these things where kind of wish I saw it as a kid because I kind of wish I had that sense of wonder that it definitely would elicit in terms of what the movie gives to you. There's that element of fun to all of the danger that is presented to these people, but it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool that a game could do something like this. So, yes, watch it with your family, but even if it's not with your family, watch it for yourself. There's a joy in this film, and I don't think we get to feel that as much because there's usually just something else going on that can take away from a movie, and this is kind of that pure joy that you can get away with that does feel clean in such a positive way. Even though there's some heavy stuff going on, you feel good after watching this one. So definitely recommend it. As always, thank you for listening. And you just saw 3 monkeys go by on a motorcycle, didn't you?